This is Good Morning Uganda.
Thank you so much for keeping it with us here on UBC TV. I must say this is the day that the Lord has made. We'll rejoice and be glad in it. So may you have a positive mindset ready to face any challenges. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda Agenda. Now this is one of our beautiful segments. Why? Because we usually have guests in studios and we get an issue of national concern that we deliberate with relevant people regarding the topic of the day. This morning, we want to look at the welfare of domestic workers in the Middle East. Now, just to take you back, in 2017, government of Uganda signed a bilateral relationship or agreement with the government of Saudi Arabia. This is when we began seeing domestic workers leave Saudi Arabia. I must say, Ugandans are all over the world doing a number of jobs. So externalization, but we are looking at specifically domestic workers. Why domestic workers? Because this is the group where we've seen a number of complaints coming in. And last week, the Honorable Minister for Labour, Gender and Social Development, Honorable Betty Amongi, met stakeholders in this industry, and she said, Cabinet sat and was divided on these grounds, either to temporarily halt externalization of domestic workers, suspend or ban forever. She told the stakeholders to give her reason, because Cabinet wants her to go back with the reasons to justify why they should continue externalization of domestic workers. Now, what does this mean? This means that we stand to lose a lot. For example, you're having about 900 million US dollars coming in from the Middle East only, where we have many of these domestic workers. Now, joining me on set to discuss this, I have the Commissioner, Employment Services, Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development, Lawrence Eguru. Commissioner, you're most welcome.
Good morning, viewers. Thank you for the opportunity.
And on my extreme end, I have Ashe Kitandwe. This is the CEO Enjazi Limited, one of the companies that externalize or provide this wave for opportunity by recruiting and of course training. Then they send these to Saudi Arabia. Why am I specific with Saudi Arabia? Because it is the only country where currently government of Uganda has bilateral agreements on externalization of domestic workers. Now, if you're in Jordan, we once had that agreement. I don't know what is happening. I think it was sorted. Maybe they're working on it. If you're in here, Qatar, you're a domestic worker, well, there's no agreement that government. So you're there on your own, briefly to say. I'll begin with the Commissioner. Commissioner, one of the interesting things is that externalization, most of these workers in the Middle East bring in a lot of money into this country. I was watching the Honorable Minister, Betty Amongi, and she said, when you look at last year, this group brought in most. It wasn't coffee, it wasn't tourism, it was externalization of labor that gave us a lot of money as a country. But the biggest question has always been, why is little then? When you look at the Ministry of Gender, good, you're here. The allocations given to this particular ministry or this particular department, good, you're here. They're not in tandem. And yet we believe that some of the things that could be solutions to these problems, money is the encumbrance. For example, in 2017, when you signed that agreement, Uganda had to have attaches in these countries. Up to today, I stand to be disproved or challenged on that. I know the Ashes have what they want to call attaches, but these are companies, representatives, not government representatives. And the interest, they will tell you, is money. Are we milking a cow we are not feeding?
Good evening, good morning, viewers, and fair question. And the figures are right, $900 million from the Middle East alone. You double that, that's the global figure, over $1.8 billion in terms of remittances. In terms of non-tax revenues, which we've collected from December 2021 to date, we are at a figure of 12 billion. That is for job order approvals, for licenses that accrue to government from the foreign employer as well as from the licenses that we give to the companies here. So that's huge, $12 billion. Now, if you look at the allocation to my department, Employment Services, for the financial year 2022-2023, it's 167 million Uganda shillings. And for this quarter, unfortunately, the quarter, July, August, September, we are at zero. We've not received any money for operations from government. Of course, these are, issues of national importance. There are issues of priorities in terms of reallocating what you collected. It does not necessarily mean that you collect this, you get it back fully. There are other aspects of governance which have to be taken care of in terms of priorities. But suffice to say, on 27th September last year, our cabinet gave the minister or gave directives as follows. One of them is what you've just said, posting of labor attachés abroad. The second is setting up of shelters for migrant workers in distress. And most of them are right now in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, as well as in the United Arab Emirates. We are also supposed to procure an app which is supposed to be able to monitor the welfare of migrant workers. So it's just like, a panic button that the migrant worker should be able to touch, and everybody is alerted. Among other things, sensitization of communities in Uganda on anti-trafficking issues, so that people are aware of what happens in the destination countries as well as in Uganda. So these are some of the priorities that we are supposed to implement. Funding has been an issue, yes. We are working on it, and part of the work we are doing is going back to cabinet. After that meeting which they had, the apprehension in cabinet, the fact that there were dissenting voices in as far as external employment is concerned. So we're putting together a comprehensive paper which should be presented on Monday next week, in which we put together all these arguments, the pros and cons, the challenges that there are in the industry, as well as how we are addressing them, and what we expect from government, in this case the Ministry of Finance, to offset some of the costs and also allay some of the fears, but also to finance our operations, so as whatever you were talking about in terms of challenges are addressed.
Ashe, coming to you, Uganda, maybe around 2017 is when we began the externalization of domestic workers formal to Saudi Arabia. But we have countries like the Philippines. They have been there for the last 20 plus years. Some would even say 40 years. I was reading through, I have some Filipino friends of mine. And when you look at the process, it's more like what happens in Uganda. They have recruiting agencies, they get the contracts the way you get them. They use the same apps you use. But we do not have these complaints in Philippines. And actually what is happening there, day by day the industry is growing. Their remittances times 5 double what we are getting. You go to a house where there is a Ugandan maid and a Philippines. Terms and conditions kind of differ. Remittances also slightly differ. What is it that the Philippines countries are doing right that the Ugandan countries recruiting domestic workers aren't doing right?
Thank you very much, Robert, for that question. It's a very, very good question, I must say. First of all, like you've clearly said that we've had, the Filipinos work in Saudi Arabia. They've been there for a number of years, actually, 20 and actually 40 years, around 40 years. It's true, and for us, it's been a few, maybe 6 to 7 or 8 years. So we are still babies, I must say, in this particular sector, and we are learning on job. Most of the things that have been happening, they've been catching us off guard, some of them, and we're trying to see how we can work together with our ministry to see how we can fix these gray areas, but also see who we can work with. And you brought a very good example. The Philippines, I remember, I think, Commissioner, about 2 years ago, you went for benchmarking in the Philippines, and they came back. The Filipino model, it has proven to be good. And I know there is work there being done by the ministry to see how the benchmarking can actually help us sort out some of these issues. But it's true, and I know there is an intention there. Though, like you've heard from the commissioner, surely if you've got a budget of just over 100 million, for your unit or department, surely there is a lot to be desired from that. But I can also tell you that with this agitation, and for me, I like the debate that came through cabinet. And this is an opportunity for us to actually put our points across, so that people understand that, guess what, the commissioner needs a budget, a serious budget, to be able to sort out the issues of labor attaches, shelters, and stuff like that, because he also needs human resource there. Now, the Philippines have what they call an overseas labor office. Okay, and that handles issues like that. They've got presence in Saudi Arabia. Now the commissioner he doesn't have that. Meaning that at the moment, he can only do so much as well. But this debate that has come through cabinet is a very good entry point for us, for people to understand that, guess what, we actually need to take this very seriously, because, like you said last year, we were the best. We brought in the 1.1 billion overall in remittances, $900 specifically from the Middle East. And I think that is very clear. So if a country like the Philippines last year, they brought in $31.4 billion as remittances. Can you imagine that? Kenya here, with a population of 54 million, they brought in $3.7 billion. So, we still have a long way to go. Nigeria, $19.1 billion. So it shows you that if there is support, intentional support from government to this particular sector, to be specific, the commissioner's unit, or rather department, then we shall be able. Because you see, what is deterring most people from actually going into this? When they hear these cases, but they don't know that it's been work in progress. At the same time, if you look at our unemployment rate, it is now at 2.1%. It can still go down. Yes, once people are convinced that actually this is safe, things are going really well, we can actually go beyond. But we need to seriously support this department where the commissioner heads in the Ministry of Labor, so that we move. But before we do that, we'll only be, trying to do so much. But at the same time, as recruitment companies, we've done so much as well, up to where we can reach. We can't go beyond a certain point because we're not government. So my appeal is for cabinet to actually come next week on Monday, seriously give this serious thought, and understand that actually what you're seeing is as a result of not supporting this particular unit enough.
Commissioner, this brings me back to you. Since 2017, when I look at the initial agreement that was signed between government of Uganda and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, it is very good. All shock observers were catered for in this agreement. But one thing that comes to my mind, what has failed your particular ministry all these years, from the times of, I think it was Honorable Janet Mukwaya, up to now, that we know the problem, we know what needs to be done? Why have you failed? Has it been the Ashes that have not supported you, the politicians? Because almost every year we have cases. We have an avoidable death. We have avoidable death or preventable death. We have avoidable or preventable injuries. You know, our image as a country, one time the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia almost felt like suspending, because they were like, we have other countries bring in. Why are we having this menace coming from Uganda, tainting our image as maybe inhuman? You know, we are treating people like we are treating animals. So what is that maybe you've not done? 2017, whatever you're talking about today, is in the agreement. You know, when you read through it, at Ashe's, that was set long time ago. Everything was clearly stipulated and had to be implemented. What has hindered you to convince? Haven't you been able to address the need? How many maybe must be injured? How many maybe must lose lives for this to attract that attention, to get the attention it deserves?
Thank you very much. Let me start by putting it straight. We have not failed. And I also chair a global policy group, which is under the International Organization for Migration. This is a global UN agency in charge of this industry called migration. Now, this technical working group, this global policy network, brings together both sending countries and receiving countries as far as migration is concerned, plus a number of our donor agencies. And you're not only looking at Africa. So Uganda is a member of that global policy network, but we have as diverse countries as Canada, you know, Ecuador, we have Ukraine, you have the UK, right, the Philippines, Sri Lanka, in that group. And I tell you what, Uganda is not the worst in as far in performance, in as far as migration for work abroad is concerned. Challenges abound.
Right.
You know, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Right. You
know, so it's bound to attract the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right.
Of humanity. And you know, you've heard about trafficking, you know, of migrants from South America going into the United States. You've heard about prostitution, you know, people being picked from, you know, Eastern Europe and trying to get into Western Europe.
Right.
You know, the Mediterranean Sea, others are crossing the Red Sea. Those are not Ugandans. Right. Those are other nationalities.
Right.
So, and in terms of practice, Uganda is far ahead, right, in terms of curbing some of these vices. You know, trafficking in persons will always be there. Right. There's drug trade. There's even organ trade, which is also big money. So we are still a nascent industry, as Ashe has said. We are still young. We are learning on the job. Right. But we are trying to do everything right. We try to pick the best from all these countries.
A snail pace.
Unfortunately, things take a bit of time, but we've learned from the Philippines. We were over there. We've learned from Sri Lanka. We've done lots of online monitoring, benchmarking of the best cases. And that's why, as we speak now, you know, for instance, in IGAD, Intergovernmental Authority on Development, where we also sit and we are part of this group, of this network of practitioners, we are ranked one of the best. The External Employment Management Information System, right, has curbed a lot of trafficking, has ensured that everybody is trained before they travel abroad. We're able to track, right, the location of these girls and boys wherever they are, you know, by a click of a button. We can know where they are. So in terms of the way forward, I can assure you we are on the right track. 150,000 Ugandan domestic workers in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia alone. About 200,000 in the whole Middle East for all other categories of workers. You are bound to get at least 1 to 3 cases, right, of people who have been trafficked, people who are being mistreated, people who want to come back because they miss matoke, those whose salaries have not been paid. They will be there. Right. But that does not qualify as us as having failed. We are on the right track.
No doubt they would be there, but we want to look at timely response, timely reaction.
Right.
Let's move away from the post-mortem. You know, this girl has come back, we are this organ, let's go to court. Prevention, timely
Absolutely.
reaction. What is your ministry doing?
Absolutely.
What are you doing? We don't want to hear that this girl jumped off the roof. Why? Because she had been battered, psychological torture. I know some that have returned when through stress and distress, their mental status has already, you see. So how do we, what measures have you put in place to ensure that we move away from post-mortem? I mean, it is good. Holding people accountable, I support that. But you see, damage has already been done. And some of this damage is, irreplaceable.
Thank you very much. Let me give you the proactive approach that we are doing and a list of things happening. One is intensive training. We've extended it from 1 week to 2 weeks. Right. Now, why is training very important? You travel to the Middle East, you have no idea what the temperature is, for instance. You have no idea that you are going to be there for 2 years. It's probably not even engraved in your mind. Yes, you just sign a document because you think you're flying out of this country, because you've come from Butambala, from Alebtong, from Kaberamaido, and you have no idea what life is outside. So, intensive training, the mindset must be made clear that you're going to undergo the following. So you should know the good, the bad, and the ugly of what you're getting yourself into. So that's one, training. Two, licensing of these people, the companies. Right. Stringent regulations, making you accountable. You mess up, we pick up the bank guarantee and bring back this girl, or we treat her. You don't do your job, we'll license you. But beyond that, what we have asked for, labor attaches. We must post them in all the hotspots, in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, in Riyadh, in Doha, in Manama, in Kuwait City, where every domestic worker goes, or where any worker, not just domestic workers, so that they have a Ugandan who is able to look after them. We have the External Employment Management Information System in its final stages of completion, for which we are asking for funding. Right. The tracking, the linking with all the agencies in Uganda and abroad to make sure that it's an all-government approach in Uganda, but an international affair as well, so that the receiving country, as well as the agencies abroad, are aware of where this girl is, what is happening to her, what redress mechanism she should be able to rely on. Shelters, most important, because I get into an issue, where do I run to? I might not have the information ready at hand, but I should know where to go. Then the app, touch of a button, a girl should be able to click. And this business of retention or detaining of people's telephones abroad is now a thing of the past.
Exactly.
Every girl now has access to their phone, unless otherwise there is a bad employer abroad, which happens. There are bad employers in Uganda, there are bad employers in Saudi Arabia as well. So you have the app on your phone, you touch a button, you're able to be traced. So these are proactive things which we are doing, and not post-mortem at all. Of course, post-mortem is important. We always discuss what has transpired. But looking forward, there's a lot that we are able to do, given the fact that we are now able to tap a lot of non-tax revenue from this industry.
Right. Well, before I get to Ashe, I just want to remind you that you can be part of the topic of discussion this morning by simply going to our various that is social media platforms. You can send us an SMS, the traditional SMS, on the number on your screen, which is 0709 60 25 92. 0709 60 90, that is 60 25 92. Or you can still send a WhatsApp message on the very number, and I'll be reading out the messages, and I believe the guests I have in studios will be able to respond to each of your questions. Now, Ashe, let's really understand the situation of these domestic workers. These are young girls that leave this country. Yes, they could have the training. Then the recruiting agency in Uganda hands them over to another agency that gets them, that of course finally delivers them to their workstations or destination. But there's always been a craving that there should be a Ugandan that they can easily communicate with. Now, I want to commend the recruiting agencies. You have over 200, fine. But some outstanding, like in Jersey, others I won't mention because I don't have them on set, that have labored to have representatives there. But I want to know, how much can these representatives do? Because this is a company, this is a representative that is going to hold either a citizen of Saudi Arabia or a government of Saudi Arabia to compel them to live to certain agreed standards. What much can they do?
Right. Thank you, Robert, for that very good question once again. Truth of the matter is that, first of all, it is now a requirement. The ministry was very clear. It came out clearly on the issue of having a Ugandan coordinator in these companies to ensure that there is a first-level remedy, queries and stuff like complaints and stuff like that. And I must tell you, Robert, that we are also coming up with a training manual or curriculum for this particular group. I know the ministry is in the advanced stages of having this out. But what we've been doing as private agencies, we've been training these people before they leave the country. We've gone ahead as private agencies to see how best can we train them, equip them. First of all, they speak English, they speak our local languages, and also Arabic. They must speak Arabic. And actually, there is no job order the commissioner here will approve unless there is a Ugandan representative in that particular agency. There is no job order he's going to approve. So that shows you that there is an intentional effort in trying to make sure that there is a first-level remedy. And their job is very clear. You're not there to side or listen to what the other agency is telling you. No, you're there on a lookout for the welfare of our people. If there is a complaint, yes, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, we receive these reports. But there are emergencies that emerge, and these emergencies have to be handled in real time. So what they're supposed to do is to report. Yes, there is this complaint, and it's incumbent upon us as the company owners, as the CEOs, as the directors, to handle this with our fellow CEOs or company owners the other side. So to follow up. So it is a first-level follow-up, but also for them to connect with the embassy. Even the embassy has a labor liaison officer, okay, at that level. So if it is a big complaint, it is beyond their, then they are able to escalate it to our offices, because remember, even internally here, we have the same coordinators, even here in Uganda, to coordinate with those teams. If there is something that is beyond, then it is escalated to us, and then we handle them at that particular level. So that is the reason why they're there. And anyone who diverts away from that, then straight up we recall them back to Uganda, because they're not doing what took them there. Thank you, Robert.
Well, Commissioner, before I go into messages, thank you, Moses Baleka. I'll be reading some of the messages that are coming in. Please keep these messages coming in. Just go on your phone, that is the number on your screen. Send us a WhatsApp message, send us an SMS, and I'll be reading out to my guests in studios and get the reply. Now, Commissioner, a stitch in time saves none. Now, I want us to get this clear. By law, or from your ministry, who is supposed to repatriate or bring back a girl that says maybe they are no longer able to work, the body of a person who has died in Saudi Arabia, or someone whose health can no longer enable them to work? Because according to the guidelines, I think that issued around COVID last year, where we increased the guarantee money for these companies, I think it was 50 million, that's 100 million. But we've had incidents that I believe we can still save these girls, either mentally, there was one I was seeing on social media, totally berserk, wanting to come back home. Then I saw fellow, call them Kadama, Abase Kadama, moving around, fundraising to bring a person back in Uganda. And I was wondering, if a company, if there's guarantee, what is the role? We've had bodies, and the families are all over media crying, help, help, help. So whose role is it? Because if someone can no longer work, maybe they're incapacitated, or mentally they signed what they didn't understand. And we can have these people. We shouldn't wait, I think, to bring some damaged, some capacitated. So whose responsibility and whose money?
No, thank you very much. Let me clarify that. The bilateral agreements that we've signed with the destination countries, in this case, the operational one, which is with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, as well as the contracts these domestic workers sign, as well as the agency agreements. The agency agreements between the company in Uganda and the company abroad are very clear. You take the worker, you bring her back, okay? And the contracts are usually 2 years. So if anything happens in between, and usually if it is an injury or death, we require you to treat the person. And these people have insurance, so they should be treated abroad. I believe that the facilities also might be better in certain cases. In the event of death, it's still the responsibility of the country, the company abroad, to bring back that person. However, there are cases in the middle, where a domestic worker, in this case, decides, Now, that is your own volition. You are tired, you want to go back to your country because you miss your husband, you miss Matoke. Now, that's a contractual obligation. You're not sick, you're not mad, you're not injured. You decide to abrogate the contract. Whose role should it be? See, now, those are cases that come to us, and they are reported everywhere to State House Anti-Corruption Unit, to members of parliament, to the ministry, and it becomes a big deal. When actually the story is the girl is tired. The girl did not wire in the fact that she's going to be away from her husband or from her lover for 2 years, and she's going to miss the matoke in Uganda or the good weather. Now, that is your fault. The signing of an agreement you don't understand does not arise anymore. Because the things are explained to everybody, to the girls and the boys, in every language they know. You're going for 2 years, this is your salary, this is the job you're going to do. Issues of giving people false hopes is not the case. These people go when they know what they're going to do. So if you get there and you realize that dollars no longer fall from the skies, or the streets are not paved in diamonds as you so thought, and you decide, I want to go back because you've heard that your husband has married a third wife, it's incumbent upon you to bring back yourself. Wow. We are not going to charge the bank guarantee for the government, which the company has paid. That is for cases of distress. Those are for cases where the company abroad, for instance, has stubbornly refused to repatriate a genuine, bona fide case of mistreatment, of injury, or of invalidity. But that again, in the event of refusal, now that you talked about the bank guarantee, we are ready to tap into that money. It's 100 million, it's in the bank. The bank has guaranteed that in the event of any encumbrance on the company, we will get that money and we'll bring back that guarantee.
Well, allow me now to look into some of the questions that are coming in. We have Baleke Moses, General Secretary, Drivers Union. I thank the ED for his work. Okay, he says, here, I thank the Ministry of Labour, Gender and Social Development and the Commissioner for trying to improve on the rights of domestic workers. But what do they do for smuggled girls? Baleke Moses, General Secretary, Drivers Union. For the smuggled girls, what then do you do? Thanks for the show, guys, but the issue of us accessing a phone is still poor. Emphasize that some employers still deny the girls their phones. Thank you so much. But I didn't have your number. Then, good morning. I am Fred Oguma. Don't you think the ministry is just negligent because they don't have part of the money coming directly to them? Then, good morning. I'm Akiru Timothy. I worked in Dubai for 2 years. Some of us have vast knowledge of the industry through the various trainings we did. Okay, mentions we can help to build good through this industry, sharing our experiences, but the commissioner has no channel of getting those stories. How can the commissioner help some people like me who want to share our stories with government to help formulate good policies? And we have I'm Thomas from Entebbe. Thanks for the program. What have you done for the parents who have lost their girls abroad in order to bring back the bodies of their children back home? They die, their bodies remain there. You don't pay the parents. What is the way forward? And good morning, I'm Salim Kabonge. Thanks for the show. Domestic workers in Middle East get much money because our money was valued down. I get this. I'm Salim Randaba. Domestic workers in Middle East struggle because our government, who can't put strict measures to the companies which take them. Okay, strict measures. Let me read 2 or 3, then I think we'll get responses. Good morning, Uganda. I am Ochabet from Chirinya. Why do they take their passports when they are there? Why do they remove their passports from them? I think that's what he wanted to talk about. Then government must establish a special embassy specifically to handle Uganda labor force taken to Arab countries, to also operationalize the agreement that Uganda entered with these countries. And finally, for now, good government penalties must be put in place. Well, let's go with those for now. You choose which one you want to address, beginning with you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, and those are great questions. I think for the first one, smuggled, I call them trafficked. Those who have left this country irregularly are essentially trafficked. Now, if you are abroad, you are in Dubai, in Bania Square, you are in London, you are stuck, you can't come back, you are still a Ugandan.
Right.
We don't discriminate between those who have gone irregularly or those who have been passed through the right channels.
Right.
Get to us, get to the embassy abroad, or you call us, and we'll take care of you. Right. There is no case that has reached us as we failed to address. We'll make sure that you come back and your issues are addressed. If it is a passport you've lost, if it is it's been banned or whatever it is, you want to come back, we work with the International Organization for Migration to bring you back to your country. Sharing your story. We are here sharing stories. Come to UBC, come to the ministry, come to UERA. We will be very glad to receive the stories of migrant workers that have been in the Middle East and have come back. Whether they are successful or not, we need those stories and we get them. Right. In fact, right now we are compiling many stories, the good cases, which we are sending to Parliament, to Cabinet on Monday, in terms of the good and positive cases. Telephones and passport confiscation, yes, we've had these cases, but as I said, they are bad employers, they are good employers. But this is now a thing of the past. The world is digital. We do not expect any employer abroad to confiscate anybody's telephone or passport. And it is a thing of the past, as I'm telling you right now. In terms of penalties, yes, there are penalties in the law which penalize the companies, but really we do not want to emphasize on, legalization of this industry. We would rather look at the promotional aspect. Let everybody know their rights and obligations. They do the right thing, so that everybody benefits, instead of taking punitive measures. But yes, punitive measures happen. We fine, we delist, delicense companies, but that's not really the answer to all this.
Right.
Well, punitive measures are a deterrence. I hope we see more of those. People want to hear action taken. Companies deregistered, this and that. And for some time, I think about 2 years back, I heard of 1 or 2 companies. But later I had one who got its license again, Commissioner. Anyway, that will be a story for another day. But Ashe, your parting shot.
Right. Thank you very much, Robert. Viewers, for me, I want to re-emphasize, kindly go through proper channels. When you go through licensed companies, you have a remedy. We have our police here, who is the commissioner. He's policing us as recruitment agencies. So please go through the right channels and you have a remedy. If we're not acting right, he's there to police us. Kindly avoid being trafficked. Thank you.
Well, Commissioner, your final remark.
Thank you very much, Ruben. Thank you very much, Ugandans. Just one last thing that I want to say is that as a ministry, my minister is very clear on this. We are no longer concentrating on just the Middle East.
Right.
We are opening up. And we are going to Turkey. She's traveling to Turkey very soon in terms of opening up beyond the Middle East, in terms of jobs abroad. We've got a number of companies that have approached her from the United Kingdom that want to externalize workers to the UK and to the US. She has been invited to Canada by the ambassador, our high commissioner in Ottawa, on the same. Until February, we were thinking of Russian market as far as our workers are concerned. So we are thinking beyond. We have workers whom we have sent abroad as individual migrants to to Poland. So we want to follow up on that market. Estonia was here. They're also asking for this for Ugandan workers. So it's not only going to be domestic workers to the Middle East. We are looking at people like you, you know, journalists, doctors, nurses, teachers, accountants, plumbers, who can go further afield beyond the Middle East. So that is happening. It's work in progress.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Commissioner Rollins Egulu, for your time, and also Ashe Kitandwe. Thank you so much. I want to believe that there's something you've learned. I also want to thank people that have been sending in messages. Thank you so much, Jeffa from Kibuku. Well, thank you for your message. George from Bale, thank you so much. Many that have sent in, some have not been able to get to capture your names because you didn't, and those messages have not been able to read because of time. Thank you for being part of this show. We appreciate, we respect your feedback, and always keep it coming in. Robert Chirabo Nyonyitono, wishing you a lovely day. Remember, stay safe. If not gotten the vaccination of COVID-19, please go and get that jab. Get your first, get your second. If necessary, get the booster doses. You're only safe when you're vaccinated. And that doesn't mean that you won't contract COVID-19. So let's also perfect the standard operating procedures. Together we can completely make COVID-19 history. God bless you.